Hey addicts, welcome back. Today we're here for another movie talk. We're doing a review / discussion. It's been a long time since we've done one of these, so it feels good to be back. Today we're looking at a film that I wanted to check out for a long time and I just hadn't, so we're here to talk about it, and that is Batman vs. the TMNT. Now, I do have an unboxing video that I just recently did showing off more of this edition, so if you are thinking about picking this up physically, go check out that video because I showcase it a little bit more and talk about my thoughts on if that's worth it. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit towards the end of the video. But before we get into the discussion, let me give you a little bit of info about this film. So in case you don't know, I don't know why you clicked on the video for a discussion if you don't want any spoilers, but I'll try to be spoiler free as possible. When we get into more of the discussion stuff, I'll give you a fair warning. But just a non-spoiler type, I guess, plot synopsis for you is that basically Shredder and the Foot Clan are invading Gotham. They're there for a particular item, or I guess not particular item, but they're after a certain thing from one of Batman's villains. So that leads to a team up, and that team up is resulting in a doomsday scenario threat to Gotham. So Batman's investigating to figure out exactly who this Foot Clan is, and on the flip side of that, the Turtles have been tracking Shredder into Gotham to try to stop him, and that leads to this team up between the Caped Crusader. That's a calling card. I'm trying to make sure that isn't a Superman one. Yeah, sorry, that's right, I think. It's been a while since I've messed with DC stuff, which is part of the reason why I wanted to check out this film, is to see if DC still got it, because they used to kill it in animation, and I wanted to see just where it's at in terms of quality right now. But that's basically the story, and I won't go too much into detail besides that until we get into more of the discussion stuff. Some other key things to note. This is rated PG-13. That's something that I wasn't aware of before I watched it. I thought it was PG. I just misread it when I ordered it. Another thing is that it's 87 minutes long, so I'll save you the math, hour and 27 minutes, and that was actually, again, longer than I thought it was going to be. So this is basically like a full-length movie, which I think is, I guess, more common now for animation movies, which is good to see, because some of the older ones, you're like, man, I wish it was a little bit longer. So I'm glad that that has changed. So I guess getting into some of the other things about just what the film does, right? So like I said, it's PG-13, and with that you would expect some more things, some more liberties taken, right? So there is that shown, but maybe not to the extent that you may be thinking. So there is minor cussing. I can't think, there was 2 cuss words that I could think of that was used. The only one that I remember is hell. That one was used a few times in the beginning, and I don't think, there was one other word, but I don't remember. And then on terms of the gore side, there is a little bit. There is some blood shown, and a few of the fight scenes, there's a few instances where people lose teeth or break arms, and then there is, I think, 2 instances where you do see amputation / decapitation, but there isn't any blood shown on screen, and the act itself isn't shown on screen. It's kind of showed in that weird cut camera angle. But you do see the aftermath of it. It's just that it's not bloody, or there isn't blood present in the decapitation or amputation scenes. And I mention this just because, if you are a parent, or if you're somebody that is wanting to get this or show this to a kid, then, you can know that going ahead. To be, brutally honest, I would be, from what I saw and just, the limited stuff of the things that I mentioned, really, I think anybody that's like, well, I'm not your dad, right? But I would say, 10-year-old, 12-year-old, I mean, they shouldn't be frightened by any of this stuff. Maybe even somebody younger. But, like I said, I'm not your parent, and I'm not the parent of whoever you might be showing this to, so you can let that be your decision. But getting into more of, some other parts of the film, one of the things that really just stood out to me right off the bat when it kicked off is kind of the aesthetics that they chose. So you can definitely tell, and I forgot to mute my phone, but you can definitely tell there is some inspiration taken from the 1980s TMNT cartoon. There's definitely some ways that they are drawn or portrayed between, I would say, more of the villain side, right? So the Foot Clan, Shredder, Stockman, he's in this too, and maybe even a little bit of a mix of the original comic in terms of their look. The Turtles are a little bit different. I would say, just from what I've seen of the IDW comic, that seems to be more of the material inspiration that they decided to draw from. But on the flip side of that, with the Batman stuff, you also see kind of the way Gotham looks is very reminiscent of the 90s, acclaimed Batman the Animated Series, which, again, was something that I found really nice. Some of the other, I guess, aesthetic things centered around Batman is a bit of a mix between probably the animated series and some more retro looks that Batman has, maybe from like the 60s or something like that. But overall, I thought aesthetically, it was really great. Now, getting into some of the actual portrayals of things, I think one of the things that stood out to me, just being a TMNT fan, was how well they dealt with the personalities of the Turtles. It seems like they handled that really well. The performances, the people that they got to play the Turtles, I thought was pretty good. I have this kind of bias mentality when it comes to the Turtles specifically on how they should sound. Just because I hold one iteration particularly as the universal standard or the definitive iteration. So to me, nothing will replace those ones, but I thought just having that bias and liking the performance that I saw in this movie, I thought that was worth mentioning because I did really like it, and I liked the it seems like they portrayed each of their distinctiveness really well. Now, another thing to note is that this is, like I said, PG-13, but it is still an animation, right? So you kind of, I guess maybe if you're somebody like me, right, somebody that's a little bit older and was going to watch this just by himself, like the depressed loner that I am, you might be wondering if this is going to be too kiddie for you, or if it's going to be, live up to, like, I guess its rating of being a little bit more mature. And to me, I would say it's that great in-between movie. A lot of, specifically with the Turtles, because I feel like that's where a lot of it could be too kiddie if they decide to go that approach can really happen. And I thought the way that they deal with the jokes, the way they, have them mess around, it's definitely youthful, but it's not too pandered just to kids. And I know some people might eye roll, and it's like, well, Josh, they're supposed to be teenagers, so of course they're going to have some immatureness to them. And I think that they do portray that really well. What I'm just saying is that it's not so that just kids can enjoy it, right? I found myself kind of smirking or just having a smile on my face on some of the things that they said. So I think, to me at least, it is, this is a good movie to where if you are somebody that's the oldest person in the room watching it, you can still have enjoyment out of it, and maybe even some of the jokes and some of the, the, I guess, slapstick humor that happens, or physical humor, as well as the younger audience. Now, granted, that's all depending on, your sense of humor, I guess, but just giving you my perspective, that's how I saw it. So I would say, you could enjoy this film especially if you're a big TMT fan. Now, one of the other things I will say is on the Batman and DC side of things, this is something, again, I've not been worried about because Batman has been handled by Warner Brothers Animation for a long time. And that's, again, who did this movie. So wasn't really expecting there to be anything bad or anything that really stood out as terrible to me, or negative, I should say. It isn't the best I've seen Batman from Warner Brothers or the animation side of things, but I think it was definitely good. And I think this is the first time I've seen Troy Baker do Batman. Well, yeah, because I don't think I've played the Arkham game that he voiced Batman in, or was it the Telltale one that he voiced it in? I don't remember, but I thought he did a good job for the first time doing it. I mean, he does multiple voices in this film, which I won't spoil anything, but you will see it. If you know his work, you'll probably guess a few. And that was one of the things that it was like, oh yeah, I know that's coming. But yeah, on the DC side of things, everything was good. Now, that will lead into my biggest complaint of this movie here in a bit. Let me get into probably the best part of the movie. This is the Shredder. The very best part of this entire movie is Shredder and the fights associated with him. They do a really good job of, like I said, they bring in the inspiration of the aesthetics from, things like the 80s TMNT, but they really don't bring the tone at all, and that's something that I really appreciated. They went with the more serious tone, quote-unquote more serious, and that leads to Shredder being a bit more menacing in this. There's a great fight at the beginning of the movie between Batman and Shredder, and I thought that was executed really well. There's another fight with Shredder at the end, and I think they also handled that pretty good. And so, hands down, best part of the movie. To me, I think just all around, they did a good job at that. You could argue a little bit on his personality or the motives or, the plot stuff that's going on, but it's just, the presence that he has and the fights they associate him with, really good job, stand out of the film. Now, the biggest downside, and this is a pretty big one, to say the least, and that is between the, I guess, balancing act that they have with Batman and the Bat Team. I'll just say the Bat Team because it has Robin, Batgirl, and Batman, all three in this film, and then the Turtles, right? And the biggest downside is that with the Turtles being showcased as such a prominent thing, I mean, look, it has the Turtles. I mean, the Turtles is as big as Batman is, and they're like taking up most of the picture, right? And this leads to, after probably like I would say the first, maybe third or quarter of the film, you really start to see, oh, they are being sidelined like nobody's dang business. And it's just really sad to see them underutilized. And I guess the best way to do this is with examples. Or, I don't know, maybe that's the wrong word. It's more so that the Turtles, they decided at the beginning of the film to make them, it looked like, oh, they know what they're doing. They're organized, they can take out bigger foes, just besides like the regular street guys, or I guess the street trash, with them fighting against the Penguin and the like. And obviously, there is going to be that bit of, not over-cockiness, but I guess clumsiness, since they're supposed to be teenagers. But given the other iterations, I think we're past the whole like teenage thing of being the excuse for that. But at the beginning, they do a real good job of just showing them that they're still organized, they can still handle themselves. But that slowly fades into other battles that they go against where they're not able to take down anybody. So there is a fight between the Turtles and Batman, and I think overall, I won't get into any debates here. I think there's an argument to be made that the Turtles should be able to hold their own, or maybe even beat Batman or come close to beating him with all four of them, attacking him at once. But I think having Batman overcome them is fine, and it probably makes sense because Batman is a master in his own right. But given the scenario of the plot with Batman being weakened by Shredder and then immediately having his confrontation with the Turtles, that should have probably come into a factor, especially when he says it towards the middle of the movie that he was weakened severely by the Shredder. And then also the biggest thing is after that, it never comes back to the Turtles seeming like they can win in a fight. You have them go up a confrontation with Robin. Again, there's a plot thing where they're not really trying to hurt him or not really trying their best to fight him seriously, but they end up getting basically humiliated by just Robin. And then there is some DC Batman related villains that, again, have certain circumstances that would lead them to be quote-unquote more powerful, but you don't see the showcase of the Turtles, I guess, prowess in fighting in any of those scenarios. None of them really beat any of the people they go up against, which is really sad, and I think definitely a thing that should not have happened in any of the execution. Even in the final fights, the Turtles don't fight Shredder. Batman ends up fighting Shredder, and there is, again, a little bit of an instance where I guess one turtle sways that battle one way or the other, which, again, that one works and I'm okay with. But on the flip side of this, the Turtles get to go against a Batman villain, and granted, even though there's only like one or two of them fight him, still get wrecked, or they might beat them, but not in the traditional way, where it looks like it's more of like, oh, he got lucky, instead of, no, they're actually skilled. At least that's how I saw it. Some people, feel free to talk to me. I would be interested in hearing an opposite viewpoint. But to me, I thought that was definitely one that I would mention, and being a huge Turtle fan, I thought that being a little bit disappointing. But overall, the film is enjoyable, and I think if you are a Turtles fan, or even a Batman, or if you're somebody that doesn't discriminate and you like both of these franchises, I think this is one that you will enjoy no matter what age. If you grew up with one of these, I think you'll like it. I think it's at least worth a first watch, so that's why I'm giving it a worth it. But on repeat viewings, not really sure. Again, has some great moments in there sprinkled throughout, but I don't know if it necessarily justifies rewatching the whole film. And if you're looking at, like, you know, from the perspective of, well, should I just rent it or should I buy it? Well, to me, these films aren't that expensive, especially these like straight to home release movies. And so to me personally, advice I give to people, go buy it. If you love it, you already own it, and you can watch it as many times as you want. Because chances are you're probably going to spend at least half the price of just the Blu-ray renting it. So what I would do is I would just buy the movie, watch it. If you like it, great, keep it. If you are like, that was good, but I don't need to ever see it again, go sell it. Go sell it to your local shop. Get let's say I paid like $14 for this, right? I think it was on sale one time for 8 or 10. Really wish I would have bought it then, didn't. But let's say you buy it for 14. Chances are you could probably go to your local place and trade it in for like 6 or 8, maybe. So, already then, you already got some of your money back, and by then, it's basically you saw the movie for free, right? Or not free, but you know what I'm saying. You're breaking even. You're not really losing out on anything. And that way, again, like I said, you have it in case you ended up liking it. But anyway, guys, that will conclude this video. Before I go, just real quick, I just wanted to say, I mentioned IDW before. This is something I really wanted to get into for a long time, but I just now pulled the trigger. I just got the first volume of the, I believe this, I don't remember what they call this edition. I think this might be the Ultimate or Collective Edition, I don't remember. But this has the first 12 issues of the IDW TMNT comic that they've been doing since, I think, 2012 or 2010 or something like that. So keep an eye out for that. If you enjoyed my review, stay tuned, because I will probably be covering the whole series if I do like that first volume. We'll definitely do at least a video on that first volume. But anyway, guys, that'll conclude this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Oh, be sure to check us out on Instagram and Twitter if you're looking for any more updates. But anyway, addicts, I'll talk to you later. Peace.